It's Financial Friday. Welcome. So favorite day of the week, as you guys already know, I'm with my guys. We are here to give you guys the juice, the information, for you to take with you for the next 6 months to 60 years. All right, we're gonna keep it moving. All right, because that's the information we give here. Will keep you sustained for that long. Before we get started, two things. First thing, whatever you hear on the show is strictly our opinions. Okay, you do not go and sell anything, buy anything, and if it doesn't work out for you, you're blaming, Glenn, Rico, and Cam. That's just not the move. Okay, now that being said, if you want to hit us up on the side, we will be more than happy to give you financial advice. Particular to your situation, because everybody's situation is a little bit different, and that's why, as fiduciaries, that's our responsibility to evaluate your situation in particular. All right. So, number two, the way that we operate here, if this is your first time, is every week one of us will pick three articles. Okay. And those three articles, we believe, really kind of speak to what was important that week in the market, whether it's specific stock changes, whether it's company news, whether it's new apps that have dropped, whether it's real estate changes. At the end of the day, we're going to bring all that to fold. Okay. So before we get started, gentlemen, what's up?
What's up, Killer Cam?
Man, I love that. I love the intro, man. It's just yeah. You do your thing, bro. You're
I've
a
been
hell
doing
of
it
a
for a
host.
while. I've been doing it for a
You're
while.
a hell of a host, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
Since March. I don't know if you guys realize that. Since March.
Damn, we're coming up.
Consistency is key.
Consistency is key, man. There's freedom in consistency.
Hmm.
This is very true. So as we get started, this week was Rico's week, and as you guys know, Rico always comes with the datas, with the charts, with the mind blowing things. So that being said, as I pull up the first article, why don't you go ahead and talk about kind of where you were at as far as choosing this particular one, Rico?
Appreciate it, man. Which one did you pull up first? I can't see it. We got
Oh, so I haven't
Meta.
pulled it up yet.
Oh,
So the AI Meta was the first one you wanted, I think.
yes, yeah. So come on, guys. How many times out of each week, right, do we sit and talk about Meta? This whole Meta. We were talking about the Meta versus Twitter thing. Meta, right? And we know that G loves AI, right?
That's he loves it.
So there are articles that are specifically picked for G because he loves AI. But
What?
I want you guys to remember something. Collaboration progresses America. Probably
Facts.
about 2 to 3 weeks ago, if you remember, I said there were going to be some key collaborations. Now, I don't have insider. I don't work with Meta. I just see the way trends are, right? When Mark Zuckerberg and Elon are locked in their focus, America's going to get the very best out of their very brightest minds.
Facts.
Mhm.
What do you see now? Meta opens AI chatbot tech for commercial use via Microsoft. What you have is two huge technological powers, right, that are teaming up together. And that's not it, because that article doesn't even fully. It's going to take some time to unpack, guys. So just
Mhm.
work with me, okay? We obviously said Meta with Microsoft. We know that that's huge. What they're working on is what they call a long language model. And you're like, Jeremiah, what is that? Basically, it's the background that allows you to put a whole bunch of information from the internet into an AI bot. And so when you chat or when you speak to it, it allows it to think and be able to speak back to you, right? And
Mhm.
so long language model, that is the actual software or the platform that Meta is creating. Now, what makes it super different about the way they created it is the fact that it's free for commercial use. In most cases, what do? You see people monetizing this type of stuff, right? Because it's an
Mhm.
advancement. But Meta's really ingenious. There's a couple of things. We'll get to that towards the end of the article. I'll tell you why they're offering it for free. But let's go through the rest of the stuff. I'm gonna tell you why they're offering it for free, right? So,
Smart move.
oh, super smart move. Not charging for use. So so they're allowing open use, open sourcing. What that does is this. Usually, anytime you have a technological software, you have something that you're looking into, it has to go through a beta phase, right? What is that? What that means is that it's the initial offering of that software, and you give it time and you let people know this is the beta version, which means it's not alpha, it's the secondary version, it's the preliminary. So go through, let us know the kinks, let us know what's not working or whatever, then we're going to go back and we're going to revamp it, right? Usually phones, brand new phones, if you buy brand new phones, that
Mhm.
first generation is the beta
Mhm.
version. It always has glitches, it always has issues, right? And then they get it right by the second or third generation. It's the same for software. So by allowing them to do open sourcing and letting people use it, they're basically doing an open beta run, right? And so people will be able to say like, oh, this doesn't work for this, but they'll see it in multiple different applications in different industries. All right. So just think about it. It's like, all right, they're doing their thing, but not only does it they're using it for free, but also the fact that they're doing this open beta run, it puts them kind of like in the forefront with this whole AI conversation, right?
Mhm.
Because we're dealing with it's we know that Microsoft is excuse me, we know Microsoft is there with OpenAI, right? We know that Google has Bard, and now you hear Meta. So remember probably about maybe a month or so ago I said Mark has been super quiet. He's working on
Mhm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm talking about. When someone's focused in and they're like, okay, I'm not gonna talk, I'm just gonna show you.
Yep.
Major contributions here. Um, they asked Microsoft, are they going to be charging? So notice the partnership, it goes both ways. So they're like, Microsoft, are you going to be charging? They didn't give a comment as to whether they're going to be
Right.
charging or not.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to that in a second as well. This is
Mhm.
great play. Now, the biggest part of this article that I want people to focus on is the fact that Amazon is also in on this. Amazon Web Services is also in on this. What does that mean? That means that you literally have Mark Zuckerberg, right?
Mhm.
You got
Oh man, they don't.
He dropped
Oh,
off.
they just
But
dropped it.
hey, Mark,
If
the
that
comp,
wasn't the most, they don't
yeah,
want it to drop that.
the, the competition of Mark Zuckerberg said, no, not today, not
Facts.
today, not today. But
So that
go
being
ahead,
said,
go ahead.
G, why don't you talk about what your thoughts are? You know, as Rico's coming back in.
Yeah, for sure. So this was again, as you mentioned in the beginning, I'm always interested in different articles, especially in the AI world, and
Hmm.
it's like it's everywhere now. Like it seems like every company organization is trying to figure out how do I include AI into their workspace. And
Yeah.
so I remember Rico talking about a month or so ago, like, hey, Mark Zuckerberg has been very, very quiet. And then
Yeah.
so it was just kind of a matter of time. So in reading this, one of the things that stood out to me was, I know Rico said he's going to probably get to it at the end, was I found that it was interesting that they're not charging, right? And so in the particular article, it said Meta is not charging. And so obviously, from that end, what it does is because of the market that they already have, there's a wide range of individuals who can now plug and play, plug and play, plug and play. On the
Yeah.
back end, again, going back to that beta phase, is they're gathering all this data,
Hmm.
and figure out what kinks so they can tweak it to now release the alpha version of it. And so I think with the amount of people that they have within their market, it's going to do wonders um, for that particular market. And
Hmm.
so I'm gonna pause there real quick, man. Kind of curious on your thoughts on the first half of the article.
So I mean, in retrospect, like so down here it says it perfectly. Meta has a long history of open sourcing our infrastructure and AI work. So
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago, there was like this shift where people were no longer used to getting a finished product right off the bat,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there were so many usage cases that were going to come to light once the masses actually started testing it and playing around with it. And so this just goes to show more and more kind of how Meta thinks future based and honestly saving money to reinvest into the product to begin with. So instead of having paying all these people to test it, we're just gonna let people use it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they'll understand that, hey, this is a
Yeah.
beta test, right? And so that's like the first thing. And then the second thing is like you just said, Mark Zuckerberg been super quiet, and we kind of already had an inkling that it wasn't just gonna be threads that he was sitting on, but there were gonna be
Right.
other things that he was not worried about. And this just shows that they probably have a legitimate rollout plan scheduled based off them
Yes.
dropping this.
Yeah.
And
And
so
speaking of rollout plan, super strategic move by Mark Zuckerberg because right a couple months ago he's been calling out Elon Musk.
facts.
Right. And so, kind of fast forward, I'm sure this is all strategically placed. And here it is, a month later, you now have the release of this particular article, right?
Hmm.
And like he had mentioned, as far as Mark Zuckerberg and the team over there being super quiet and being able to kind of gear up for this execution is very strategically and almost genius like played.
Yeah. But all right, so we'll move on for now, as I'm sure Rico's trying to figure out
Yeah.
his internet. By the way, Modesto and Patterson, y'all internet, get it together. Y'all need to do better.
Yeah.
um, and so the next one that he had was and it's
The
funny
t-
that he listed this because I literally saw this last night
yeah,
before I went to bed.
right.
Actually, no, I woke up at 1:30 in the morning, wired.
Got you.
Don't know why, don't know
Locked
how.
in. Locked
Locked
in.
in. I was just like, you know what? Let me see what's going on with Yahoo News or whatever. And I saw this and immediately was like, oh, is this even available? And so,
Yeah.
that being said, I think it's funny once again how lockstep we all are as far as the information. So what do you think? So what do you think about this, bro?
So this was another good article. It kind of tied into the first article just from now to Apple space. So
Facts.
as I was reading, I was like, okay, clearly you have your Microsoft folks and you have your Apple folks, right? And even
Why
when
can't
it
we do?
came
Why can't
to
we all just be friends? I use
right,
Apple and I use Microsoft,
yeah,
bro.
and come to investments, whether you like it or not, I think that So as I was reading this, that was something that stood out to me. I was just like, there are many people who don't even like AI, and vice versa with Microsoft, but yet
Hmm.
they invest in it, right? Because they understand, you know, in part with this article, they're solving for the long term game, right? This
Yeah.
particular article, when as I got to the end, I was just like, Apple's solving for the solutions of the next 5 generations. I mean, the next
Yeah.
5 decades,
Yeah.
right? And so, and I think again, even with Apple, with their release of what they're calling Apple GPT, again, another smart move. But it was only a matter of time before they released something because and as it mentioned in the article, Apple has consistently behind the scenes been utilizing AI, within
Hmm.
the umbrella internally. And so I know it mentions about, Microsoft on Thursday was negative 0.89% and Apple negative 0.62. But this particular article regarding the Chat GPT, it's building of the framework, creating that as we were just talking about in the last article, the LLM, which is the large language models,
Yeah.
according to that Bloomberg. Rico, we see you back, man. Can you hear us? All right, no worries. So I'll just kind of keep going. So something that I wrote down, I mentioned that based off of the title. Can you go back
I
up
can
to the
hear you.
title real quick? Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Um, Apple has a AI Chat GPT up its sleeve, and so Rico, you wanna tell us why you selected this particular article, or even tie it into the first article?
Yeah, say is that you got to think about Apple and Meta competing, and those two are competing obviously for market share, right? So Apple's looking to become not only just hardware or your phone telecommunications company, they've also now become a bank, right? They've also now they want to become
Facts.
software and a biomed, right? Also want to
Mm-hmm.
become car makers, right? Vehicle
Right.
makers, and so they're getting into various industries. I think that there's something that people should notice is that they're all coming out. It's a race. They're all coming out with the same thing almost at the same time, right? They got the chatbot. They're
Mm-hmm.
based it on the large language model, the same thing that we just talked about with the previous article. So they're just racing against each other, and I think that Apple, overall, the fact that they have the user basis right now, right? Like think of how many people have an Apple phone. And so it's going to be very easy for them to integrate this into the software and then use it. And then think about it, Apple was already using AI with Siri. Just most people wasn't really
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it. And so they were already doing it. Now they're just going to up that level a little bit. You'll see them do that. And I also feel that in retrospect that Apple is getting, I remember I forget when I said it, but I think Apple
within the next 2 to 5 years, Apple will be looking to be at about $5 trillion market cap. And what they're doing is getting into additional market shares, right? So they're going into other industries and taking market share because they've basically tapped out for what they can do. I think I say that what's it called? Honor phone in China starting to cut into their market share with the phones. And so they've tapped out. Like they're like, okay, we've done what we can with the phones. Now let's go into something else. And this is a piece of it, having the software.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I feel like with the how innovative the Apple team is, it just makes sense to continue to shift the focus and expand into other arenas that still kind of tie into the technology arena.
No, for sure.
All right. So as we move on, we'll move on to the Tesla article. So what made you choose this year? Your favorite company in the whole wide world.
So, I chose the Tesla article because basically people ask the question, they want to know, how does the stock go down and the earnings reported 20% higher than what they had anticipated, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a semi-complicated thing. But I'm gonna try to keep it really, really simple. On a product, right, you have something that's called margin. Margin is how much you can charge for that product based upon scale, based upon logistical overhead, whatever people pay, right? Whatever. Okay. Now, if your margin is lowering, that means that you have to sell more of that product, right? It means that your volume has to increase. Now, if you're already having issues producing more volume, it starts to cast a little shadow, or it starts to cause issues with your shareholders, because they're like, you can't produce fast enough to meet the volume demands that you would need to make more money. And so even though the earnings had gone up, and this is what the article's talking about, honestly, people were like, you got a lot of that money from the government. There were subsidies that you got off energy subsidies from the government, and so they kind of paid you that money. And so a lot of it may not have been earnings. It was cash on the books, but that doesn't mean that it was actual earnings. And when you saw that the margin dropped, you're like, okay, you just laid, however many people over in, I think it was like 2,000 people over in China at their biggest plant, right? The plant has 22,000 people, but they laid off 2,000 people or something like that over at their Shanghai plant. And so all the signs are saying that the company is cutting back, or they're trying to cut margin. They're cutting margins and they're trying to cut costs. But we came in 20% higher. But that just doesn't, people got to really sit and think about it. There's a global thing that's going on as well, because the plant in India that was supposed to be up and running by now, because they've been talking about it since 2022, that's not up. That deal hasn't been completed. Then you have to think about Tesla's their appearance, right? The public scrutiny that goes on with you doing business with BRIC Nation countries, right?
Yeah.
And so for Elon, it's just money, but then you have to think about the public opinion, and so that starts to sway up on stocks as well, because we know that stocks, especially Tesla, is very, very heavily weighed with retail investors.
Yeah.
So I picked this article because I needed people to understand how does the stock drop, and earnings came out, and on the earnings call, he's doing well. Everything came out, but then people are digging deep, man. They dig deep on Elon.
Yeah.
They try to figure out all the details and stuff. And also, I'll say this one last thing. Elon, please, I hope you're listening. Focus on your technological companies. Stop trying to sue Meta. Like, you don't want to get in the ring with Mark, because he's probably gonna whoop your tail. He's a little bit yoked up now. Like, bro, focus on your technological companies. You notice his focus got away, right? He started focusing on Threads, Twitter thing, and it took his focus away. And then boom, this happens, and then you lose 9%. This is what happens when you know what he needs to focus on. Focus on your companies, Tesla, SpaceX, right? Focus on those. Leave
Yep.
Twitter alone. Let it be whatever it is. It's a failure. It's a failure. It's gonna die. Let it die. That's what I got.
I hope you're listening, Elon.
Yeah,
G, what you got?
hey, somebody on his team is listening.
44.
So-
Dude, think about it. $44 billion for Twitter. That's more than the GDP of like 4 or 5 countries put together. That is the biggest fail. That is the biggest epic fail ever. $44
Fact.
billion for an app that is not even top 5.
Yeah. I don't know. Elon might have something up his sleeve. So regarding this specifically, man, like I think that there's not a lot that he's worried about regarding the stock sinking, but everything, but on the flip side of it being everything being up. And I say that because to date, so we're 7 months into July. I'm sorry, 7 months into 2023, and Tesla is still up 136%.
Yep.
Right. And so, with that, I think that's something where as a someone who is a creative, an innovator, a mastermind who's not afraid of failing or falling forward, like because you have that wiggle room. It's almost like, I'll use the example of sports. It's almost like when you're playing basketball and you're up by 20 points and this fourth quarter is still 3 minutes left on the clock, right? Sometimes you still stick to your game plan, but folks start doing a little bit more stuff on the court that they may not do if the score was tied and there's only 5 seconds left on the clock, right? And so I think Elon, how strategic he is, that's why I feel like that's the mind space that he's in right now, right? He's like, hey, we're up 136% right now, right? We're launching new products. As I think in the article it mentioned about the truck, the Cybertruck, right?
Truck.
And so
The
Cybertruck,
yeah.
the new release of that, which they've been working on for some time. Elon is his focus is, again, kind of that long-term play, like about the next generation platforms. That's where the focus is. And I agree with Rico when he says, hey, Elon, stick to what you're great at, right? You're great in the tech space. And then when you're locked in your focus, the amount of things that are executed under his leadership is just phenomenal. But then when you start getting distracted, the stocks start going down significantly. However, as an investor, and I'm looking at Tesla, I understand how genius Elon is, and I understand, again, we're solving for the next couple decades. And so with him being in that space, as long as he can remain focused, no distractions, stay outside of that cage ring with with Zuckerberg, Tesla's going to be good.
I got a question. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing I got to think about though. Like you said, 20 up 20, and it's about 5 minutes left. You get that false sense of confidence, right? Mark Zuckerberg and Elon. If you guys don't know, it's real. Like the beef, it is not fake beef. Like Mark told him, "Come see me in this octagon." Like he want to rock his head a little bit. And I think people have been playing Mark for soft. He's been in a lot of stuff, right? He's had a lot of trust infringement. He's had a lot of cases. Like he's been beat down over the past couple of years, right? Metaverse didn't go the way like people have been like, and so I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. And I'm going to tell you like this: you don't want T-Mac, right? Tracy McGrady. We're using basketball. You don't want him if you're down by 20. Remember, 13 points in 33 seconds. That's what Mark is to Elon. Don't play him short. And while I'm just saying, keep your focus, keep your foot on the gas, because that false sense of confidence could cost him. Mark is very, very focused. I said it, and he's still got some stuff that he hasn't even revealed yet, because he was quiet for a long time. People were beating down on him, like, oh, Facebook, Meta, you're stupid, changing the name and did it man, it's been years. And so I just think that Elon needs to stay focused, because if he doesn't, he'll lose that position that he has very easily.
For sure. And although so I'm looking at it right now on my phone, that's why I was pulling up. So although they may be up 136% this year, that's only because they went down so bad at the end of last year.
Correct.
Yeah.
So at the end of 2022, they were at a high of 414, and right now they're rocking a solid 260. So, but that being said, let that be a point that when the Giants fall, even though it may be for a small amount of time, if you are not ready to capitalize, you will lose out. I know I was waiting. And so I'm up 126%. They're up 136%. So like, okay, cool. I locked out on the little 10. But it's because I was ready when they fell. And I was like, all right, bet. And so these are the things that we're trying to explain to you guys to really pay attention to is like Rico's showing you somewhat of the game right now is don't just find one piece of information and decide that that's the piece of information that will decide if you partake in a stock or not, because it's a holistic picture. It's the same thing that Warren Buffett always talks about too, is like look at all of it. Look at the scene behind the scene. Yeah, from a general perspective, you're like, oh well, they got a lot of money, but the money didn't come from customers. The money came from the government, and so that only lasts for so long. And so it's the same thing, I've learned recently, like about solar, is that, before batteries used to not be something that was cost effective. But when it comes to markets such as California, Florida, things like that, now that energy is becoming so expensive, now they are a viable option. And so now there's this technology race, just like there is right now, with certain things that are going to be better for the consumer. And that's realistically what we're seeing right now.
And so you'll start to see a whole bunch of partnerships with different people, and that, like I told you, collaboration is good, because collaboration is what progresses America, man. This is what you need to see. So like you saw, the Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, which is that's crazy. Elon honestly should be looking to Google. Google Bard is actually very viable. It's a very viable candidate, right? And everybody uses Google for searching. Nobody uses Bing, right? Now people use ChatGPT, and so what you have is Google has the user basis, right? With the search engine, and so Elon, get with Google, come together, put it in your car, right? And so as people start to switch over by 2035, there'll be no gas powered vehicles. Tesla is the number one EV selling, right? Right, and then all the rest of the EV companies are using his chargers, and so that's what I would do. I would get with Google and I would make that happen. Look, man, you want to win, I want to win. If we come together, we can make it. Gives us right. I got all the data. You got data. Obviously, everybody uses you, so you know where they're from, all that stuff like that. Let's get together and make this happen. That's what I would do.
Facts. All right, gentlemen, we got 2 minutes left, or actually 1 minute left. So as we wrap up, what y'all got?
Go ahead, G.
Yeah, I'll just say for folks that tuned in, appreciate you guys tuning in and or rewatching this, and feel free to dive into the chat. I'm glad that Rico picked these articles, man, because just from an education standpoint, when it comes to folks who are looking to invest, they may be already investing. I think it's important, especially in the AI space, and we've said this before, AI, it's not going anywhere. And so to make sure that you come from under the rock, if you're still there, so that you are in the know of what's going on and how things are being, executed behind the scenes that will affect, your kids or your family or yourself. So, but yeah, that's all I have, man. It's always a good time rocking with you guys, sitting on this platform. Keep staying tuned and up to date with us as we continue our Financial Fridays.
Facts. What you got, Rico?
Last thing I got is also, last thing I got is just to say, I didn't get to say it because I had technical issues over here. But don't be fooled. I was gonna tell you about Meta. Don't be fooled by the altruistic, caring about everybody. Listen, this is business. People are trying to make money, right? They're using your data, they're using your information, your thought processes. They're using that to make money. So you should use your own thought processes, and you should control your thought process. Do your due diligence, right? Dig into these companies, look at the socioeconomic climate, and then make wise choices when it comes to where you invest your money. Be very smart. Right now, is an inflection point, right? We have a time within the next probably 12 to 18 months. It's the time to invest intentionally, and it's a time to be very wise about what you're doing with your money, because past that point, AI will begin to take over, and you'll start to see a huge and even greater wealth gap. It's going to be a huge transference of money right now. And if you're able to get into that, it's time to get into it and be intentional. But that's what I have to say. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and yeah, pass it to Cam.
All right, y'all. Financial Fridays, 3 p.m. every single week. We gonna come back after the weekend, after we let you marinate on this information on Monday, Money Mondays. On that accord, we do that on Instagram. So that's on Instagram Live. You can catch it off Rico's profile. Glenn and I go live off of his, and then I'm gonna let Rico talk about the rest of the things he's got going on. He's got Taylor Talk on Thursday. He's got Growth Hour on Thursday. He's got the Latin World Podcast on Wednesday.
Jesus. I think you hit all of them. And I'll probably go live. I'll probably go live a couple times as well, man. But what we're trying to do, if you guys haven't realized, is we're trying to flood you and educate you with knowledge. We just want you empowered, right? And so, if anything, make sure that us three, that we give you value. You'll always see us giving you value. L3 perspective, you didn't speak on that. It is on a break, but you can go and catch up right on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you pass on that information. I love it. Life, love, and leadership. L3 perspective. These two gentlemen. It's a great podcast.
Facts. But other than that, we hope you guys have a great weekend. If there's articles or any information like you'd like to know our opinions on, or you'd like it to speak on, please send it to us. Join the Marathon Group page, and you can, we drop, mainly Rico drops knowledge on there almost every day to kind of thought provoke, financially. But other than that, we appreciate you guys rocking with us and or watching this after the fact, and we will see you guys on Monday. Peace.